but then there's still PI NDA. So like
Yeah.
they're different.
Wow.
Interesting.
So you have to be very careful, even in the pre-alpha, which is NDA'd, like what you say.
Yeah, even knowing what I know, I'm still like, pretending not to.
But then there's still PI NDA. So like
Wait, well, what are we pretending not to know?
Nothing.
all the leaks that you already have.
Oh, okay.
Oh crap, forgot my thumbnail.
Oh wow, thank you. Welcome in, everybody. Enjoying Throne? Yes, I am. It's a nice placeholder for Alpha 2. I'm enjoying it. I enjoyed the combat before. I'm enjoying the quest line. The storyline's pretty solid. I'm really looking forward to getting to 50 here and actually getting into PvP. I haven't done that yet. Oh, I am not streaming Throne and Liberty. 1 second.
That explains your chat comment now. Oh, that's funny.
I'm in the wrong area.
That's funny.
I normally don't have to switch it. There we go.
I got to level 20 and have kind of fallen off with Throne.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I also basically did all the testing that they had, so it's kind of
Burnt out after doing it a couple times.
yeah.
Yeah, that was my concern. So I played the Korean version, and then when the beta came up, I was like, I already know I want to play the live version. Like I don't want to level through the beta to see that they changed, how the sword swings a little bit. I was like, I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, let's get into it. There we go. Oh crap! Here, let me show Phantom. There he is. All right, welcome to another Ashes of Creation Voices of Vera live stream with myself, Nice Gaming. Is there no one else? And of course, you, the Voices of Vera. We have a special guest today. You guys may recognize him, Mr. Fantmx of Theory Forge. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me join y'all.
Yes. Yeah, we realized we haven't had Phantom on or any of the guys from Theory Forge. So it's awesome that you can join us. If you guys don't know, and I'll let Phantom give his own introductions, but Theory Forge, Ashen Forge is like the overall name, right?
So Ashen Forge is the show name. Theory Forge would be sort of the group name.
Gotcha. There you go. And you guys have been you guys are the OGs, in my opinion. You guys are the OGs in the Ashes of Creation content space. I think you guys have had Steven on a couple of times. You guys have had a consistent show every Sunday, which is really cool. So, and you guys, we were just talking before the show, have known each other or been doing this for about 10 years at least.
Yeah, 10 years. Started with EverQuest Next and Landmark back in 2013, 14. And
wow.
Every game we've covered has failed, by the way. So
so you're just bad luck.
Yes, EverQuest and Next Landmark, but then we moved to Chronicles of Illyria. There's a couple others in there that I'm forgetting.
You guys are like harbingers of bad news, basically. Is what you're
I
saying.
hope not.
I wish you didn't tell us that. So you got what you're saying is you guys.
This is the end of the podcast, guys. So we're gonna delete this off of YouTube. I'll talk to you later.
Surely Phantom has learned by this point to choose a good startup.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, but this has by far been our longest. I think the Ashen Forge has gone for 7 years for Ashes of Creation. So yeah, we've definitely been here from the start. And yeah, we'll the 20th, I think, is when we'll have Steven on for the 4th time.
20th, that's awesome.
Fun.
Yeah,
how many episodes in are you guys with that show?
Oh crap. 165. We actually do take some breaks from here to there. So one
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
we've kind of learned is to avoid burning out. Usually over like December period, December, January, we'll usually take a month or two off.
Nice.
Cool.
But yeah, after 7 years, it's hard to keep a weekly show for
Yeah,
a game that's not out yet.
I can imagine. Yeah, we've been doing this for over a year. I can't imagine stretching this out to 7, you know. So shout out to you guys. And yeah, that's pretty smart advice. You know, else let's take a break. Ashes Alpha 2 is coming up, but let's, we're a little burnt out from discussing it, you know. I'm not even gonna play on it. No, I'm playing, but appreciate you all being here. HD girl, I can never say that name. He says NDA has been lifted. I feel like that's bait for Phantom, and I'm gonna roll with it. Grim, how you doing? Flanker, how you doing? 12-13 interviews this weekend. 1920. So we have Vladis interviewing Steven Saturday, and then we have the discussion round with Yokai and Envious Sunday. Yes. We have our date as well, when no one and I here are going to talk to Steven, but that one's tentative. We letting Intrepid announce that. And ours will not be live, so it's going to be a little different. I figured, obviously, which came out to be the case. I figured there'll be enough live interviews for you guys, so we got something special, something different planned. So be on the lookout for that, or whenever that's announced. CJ says, "Else face cam win." Oh, he did say Alpha 2. We're gonna hold him. We're gonna hold him to that.
I did say that.
But yeah. So, today I wanted us to talk about pretty much, we have Fantmx here. He is a thank you for the follow, Grim. We have Fantmx here. He is a member of the Phoenix Initiative program. For those of you who don't know, that's paying a certain tier of Kickstarter, if I'm correct. And you know, you obviously get to test the game a little bit earlier. You get certain specific benefits. And Fantmx is not a longtime PI member. He has and I'll kind of let him give the details of this, but he was more of a recent join to the PI program. And so, Phantom, how long have you been in this Phoenix Initiative program by Intrepid Studios? Why did you do so? And yeah, we'll take it from there.
Yeah, everybody asks that. So because I was a Kickstarter, actually, I always say a backer number 3. So I don't know who number
I
1 and
was
2 were, but I was
yeah.
Oh,
backer
that's
number 3.
sick.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say you're backer 3, aren't you?
yes. I knew what I wanted. I clicked it, and yes. But the show kind of stopped me. Us having our show, I didn't want to complicate things, right, and potentially get in trouble, say things that were under NDA.
Mhm.
So I kind of held out for a long time. Um, and then they got to, it was kind of when they closed just the general keys down for alpha. Now they didn't shut down Kickstarter, but that kind of got me Kickstarter upgrades, and that's kind of got me thinking like, like, it's almost here. There's still benefits that persist after, so it's not like
Yeah,
PI
yeah.
ends, come October 25th. And I had already kind of been upping my pledge over time. One of the funniest things I've done, I think, is that I had the pledge before PI. I bought for one specific reason, and that is because I get to create and name an NPC, and
Oh.
that NPC is going to be Diggs, and it's going to be a lot of fun having Diggs in the game. But at that point, I thought, well, I'll just, it's not too much further high to go up, so I did,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's like April, I think. I want to say it's not been super long. Probably 6 months.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I can imagine being a content creator doing a weekly show where, we're just we can't play the game technically, right? We're just theory crafting, discussing certain things, and I could see how looking at the Phoenix Initiative as both a benefit and a con, with have you can't talk about this, like, we could have a full-on discussion like, well, actually per the wiki is this, and meanwhile you done tested and confirmed they kind of got rid of that, or you had a meeting where it's like, we got rid of that, but you can't say it, so you're just like, just sitting there like, so I know sometimes it's hard. NDAs can sometimes be hard in that sense. Welcome
Yeah.
on in, Viral.
Yeah, I gotta say, I want to say it was 3-4 months ago when they lifted the NDA on your guys's doing the node sieges or node PvP, and I have to say like an addicted person to this entire game. I watched all of them. I watched yours. I watched everybody's. I honestly, I liked yours the best because you were coming from a perspective of hey, like I remember the part where you're like, sometimes I'm like not into PvP, but I remember you saying like this was fucking lit, and I was like, holy shit, like I haven't heard Phantom say something like this, and like it just kind of rung in my head a little bit, and so yeah, it was really cool to see you. Like it has to feel weird to like have this NDA, play something that was really fun to a point to where you wanted to talk about it, and then when they finally lifted, you're like, I'm telling everybody. I get to tell everybody everything that I experienced. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, that's fun, and it was fucking lit. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, no, that was great. God, I don't even know how many people over that weekend.
Yeah, I bet you did your own press run.
Yeah, of course it started with Narc, but anyways,
So like my favorite part, I'll just never forget when Steven's in the middle of the node war stream. He's like, "Oh, this Fantmx."
yes.
Oh, you
owes me
haven't
a
heard about that,
1v1.
right? Like that nobody's ever mentioned that before, right? It was the first
No,
time.
never.
No,
No, it's not. It's not like I got multiple pings in Discord when he announced that he killed me.
Oh, that is. Oh, I couldn't imagine. It's
Yeah,
gonna be on site when you see Steven next time, huh?
yeah, he owes me a 1v1 at some point, and I'm gonna hold him to that. So, I've told this story. It was I didn't know what to do. We were given instructions. We're like, you go here. We're gonna start here. We'll let you know when it's starting. The whole thing had been a mess anyways because our side was just kicking their ass, and then all of a sudden I come over a hill and there's Steven. It's like, well, shit, am I allowed to kill him? I'm like, what do I do? And most people don't believe me, but if you look, like my character starts slowly backing away because I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and then he kills me. So he owes me. He knows. I've mentioned that a couple times. So
Nice.
That's great.
So
it's a lot of fun though.
we are so close to finally getting our hands on Alpha 2. So Elsa and I, we are not spot testing. We don't have access to get our hands on the game. Obviously, you being Alpha 1, Phoenix Initiative, you've got your hands on the game and everything like that. So just tell us everything you know. No, I'm playing. But we are so close to finally letting the public see this game. Like even without considering what you know behind the scenes, like take that all out if you need to, like just gone, just from the last stream showcase you saw and everything like that, and everything that we were promised compared to what we're getting in these phases and everything like that. What is your prediction for the broader audience's reaction on October 25th when they get to see this game being played by someone other than Steven clicking his skills and get to see players playing this game? Like what do you think the public's perception will be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think the people that are really have known about Ashes for a while are going to probably be fairly happy that they get in, they get to do stuff, they get to play it. The people that are sort of on the outside looking in that don't really follow, yeah, it is a loaded question. Don't really follow. Sorry, I'm reading your chat.
Yeah.
Don't really follow real close. I don't know. It's the biggest message I've been trying to put out on our show and just in some videos I did before was that this is an alpha. Like you need to be ready
Mm-hmm.
for problem servers, for just problems. It's an alpha. And because I look back, I think Intrepid's aware of this too. You look at their last 2-3 years of showcases, and almost all of them are perfect, right? They've made the gameplay look perfect,
Yeah.
and it's marketing. They don't want to show a crappy
course.
game. So I think you look, you get to 4 or 5 months ago, all of a sudden you start noticing Steven saying the word bug a lot, and they start showing bugs a lot.
Yeah.
And I think this whole last stream, what was it, the Alpha 2 guide? Like they didn't do that for Alpha 1. And so my thought, Mike, is that they're just trying to prepare people for what the actual experience is going to be, which is an alpha state. So I don't know. I don't know how people will take that. I think all of us who follow this game kind of religiously are aware of what that means, but I don't know how everyone else will take it. But I don't know that they really have a choice at this point. So I guess what I'm getting at is I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of people that say, oh, this is it. This is all we have. What's going on? This is terrible. But I don't know that them waiting any longer is going to change that. So
True.
they just have to like do it. You just have to do a Band-Aid, pull it off, do as best you can.
Yep.
Shit will go sideways, and it's okay.
Interesting. I like what
I
you
just
said there. If they wait longer, is it really going to change much as far as public
no,
perception?
Yep.
no,
Yeah, I'm
not at all.
I didn't know we were going to talk about this. As you guys probably don't know in the chat, like we kind of just free flow conversations here. I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I'm actually working on a video right now talking about how important is the Alpha 2 release day, because I don't know if you're seeing this a lot in like your chats and stuff, Phantom, but there's people that are like, hey, everything changes on the 25th, and that could either be really, really good, like really, really good, or hey, this game ends on the 25th. And there's just this bipolar situation where people, I think a lot of people are trolling, but I think some people are very strongly set in what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to go back, and I was looking at other games that are in alpha stage, early access, or stuff like that, and I wanted to get comparisons, and I wanted to do like, hey, what is the best case outcome, what is the worst case outcome in this situation? Like let's say we get in there on the 25th, everything goes perfectly, it's an alpha, it's buggy, it's glitchy, but we get to get in there and we can kind of see a vision. Or worst case scenario, doesn't work for 2 months, like literally we hop on, we're rubber banding everywhere, like everything's terrible, like what are the outcomes? And I went back and I found an early access alpha from 2020. And I just wanted to read some quotes from a forum for you guys, just so you guys, because they're very similar to what we hear now. It says, "I am pissed off. I paid €60 for Crash. I had all playing 10 hours with no problems. Big crash." And then this person comments and says, "Can I just say congrats for paying money for the right to be a tester? In the past, people got paid for doing that. Also, congrats for no crashes for full 10 hours. I have like a crash or two each hour." Next person, "I consider it alpha stage. In some ways, it's more advanced than that, but then the massive list of bugs, the missing core features like classes, races, etc. Incorrect rule set implementation make it feel a lot more as an alpha than a beta." Next person says, "It's not really a traditional alpha or beta. It's the first act of a game, probably like 25% or something like that. Only has half of the classes that are planned and is missing a few races. Also, the current max level is capped at 4. But I think the first act is pretty much done, just needs balancing and polishing, but not sure if they intend to add much more to the first act." You guys might know this if you've played it. But yeah, if you're expecting to be able to play the whole story here, you won't be able to, and likely won't be able to until the game fully releases. So this is back from 2020. This is the first year of Baldur's Gate 3. This is the people's first opinions getting into test.
Oh, this is Baldur's Gate.
Yes. And so I wanted to get the first year of it because they went on for 3 years, and I'm on the bespoke thing with a bunch of content creators from this month, and we were talking about like how long should Alpha 2 last, and I was a person that said like, hey, if this lasts over 2 years, like it may be a problem. Well, Baldur's Gate went 3 years. It wasn't a problem at all. And so you have your foot in your mouth. But seeing these quotes from 2020, especially the paying for the right to be a tester, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that on my YouTube channel.
Yes.
And so
they should be paying you.
Yeah, exactly. And so obviously it's a different game, it's a different perspective, but nobody that thinks about Baldur's Gate now thinks about the first date of Alpha 2. Nobody. And nobody considers it at all. And so that's like obviously the best case scenario is like we win game of the year, right? Like that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, in my opinion, is Throne and Liberty. And I remember very vividly you and I sitting on this podcast last year talking about the initial beta release for Throne and Liberty and about all the content creation that went bad for it. They had the AFK grinding stuff. The combat was very stagnant. Like just about everything was wrong because they didn't have people in open testing it. It was all NDA, and then they released it, and it was just like negative reviews across the board. And they're like, hey, exactly. And they were like, okay, we're going to fix this in 2 months. And we literally sat here. We're like, no way. There's no way you're going to be able to fix every single issue you have in 2 months. And then we played the Korean version. Nice and I enjoyed it. We had fun with it. But all the reviews on YouTube for the last year have been combat's bad, game's bad, this is terrible, like this isn't going well. And then I don't know if you remember this, but the first quarter release, when they did the earnings report, NCSoft did. They didn't even announce
Yeah.
Throne and Liberty in their earnings report because it didn't go well. And so literally from beta on, every single thing has done poorly for Throne and Liberty, right? And then they get their live release and they've had over 350,000 people playing. So even in the worst case scenario, I know it's not a good release by Amazon gaming standards, but when you consider 350,000 people, even though everything has gone poorly for the last year from a testing perspective, they've gotten enough people in to potentially gain a population based off the game's merits itself right now. And I think that's about all you can ask for. And I can't think of a game that's functioned worse. I mean, maybe you guys can, but I can't.
So here's a good question from what everything you just said. How important is that initial release for the long-term perception of a product? Like, does that initial how important is that first impression? We are constantly taught in life that that first impression is a lasting one, and it's an important one, and you get one shot at it. When it comes to video games, or maybe MMOs specifically, I mean, we've had some single player games like a No Man's Sky or Cyberpunk, really switch things around. How important is that first impression of an MMO? Yeah, I agree. Viral MMOs are different than single player.
Oh,
Can
absolutely.
can we deal with I don't want to say the word bad, but a disappointing Alpha 2 launch, and then, the naysayers, they disappear after a month and a half, 2 months, and then it's just us, the core followers that was waiting on this game. We're lacking content, but we're still logging in every day. We're testing, we're playing, we're finding some way to keep the content going. We're finding some way to keep the fun going. It's going to be us here. Whatever that population looks like, it's going to be us that's left over once the Asmongold of the world move on. Does a comeback come beta 1 or like a year into Alpha 2 or whatever the case may be? Does that I don't want to say nullify, but does that kind of show, or do these other examples like the Baldur's Gate 3 example that you get, does that like kind of put less pressure on Intrepid? Or do you guys think we could just like not sweat the Alpha 2 launch or the perception? What do you guys think? And Sonic says people tend to not want to play unpopulated MMOs. It's a snowball in either direction. Yeah, because I mean, I don't predict because I don't expect negativity. I don't expect it to be bad. But let's just say worst case scenario, a content creator or someone or game journalist, I don't care, who doesn't follow Ashes of Creation religiously, but like, oh, they got a key, they're gonna check it out just to review it, and they just like they mention that it's an alpha, of course, but they just like really, for this $250 for this, $500 for this, X amount of money for this, or this is all they've gotten after X amount of years. And could Intrepid recover from a negative like press run? Like, I hadn't seen a negative attack on Intrepid, a campaign. Let's use that, a negative campaign on Intrepid, except for when they first announced the phase keys, and those keys wasn't really announced to include the beta or any game time, stuff like that. And then I saw like a couple people, jump on that, and then I was thinking that whole time, like, is this a preview of what's to come with the a poor Alpha 2 launch if it goes poor? And is that, does that matter long term? Um, Phantom, do you think that how important do you think that first impression is?
I think it's hugely important. I have thoughts on that key announcement too. But another one to look at. How often do you see a BG3 thrown? Something that turns around in No Man's Sky. And I also agree, single player is different, but it's not that often. I mean, another one, the other direction you can look at right now is PAX Day. Like they had a terrible release, and actually, as we're sitting here, I just pulled it up right now. They have their last 24-hour peak was 467 players.
Oh my.
Um,
Oh my.
I think the nature of Ashes Alpha 2, even just being weekends to start, means that you are just going to see a drop off. I think that's just naturally going to happen. It's at the end of the day, if they can knock their systems and put everything together like they hope to, I think you end up with a game. Well, I think this game is going to probably be maybe not super niche, but somewhat niche anyways. So
Yeah.
um, I don't know that you necessarily looking for millions and millions of players to begin with, but another thing you can look at it. You mentioned, I actually thought you were talking about Ashes when you were reading
Me
those
too. Me
comments.
too.
Yeah.
Because there's a
That's why I wanted
YouTube
to read it.
video. Yeah, well, I listened to this. It's a YouTube video that recorded a Discord session of Steven talking to players after Alpha, gosh, when was it? Alpha 1 maybe? I don't know. Yeah, but it was heated. Like
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
everyone was dumping on him just completely. But here we are, a couple years later, and everybody's excited again. So, I don't know. I really don't think Alpha 2 starts till May anyways. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm sure there'll be people that get upset, but I do think the server stability is a big part to this. I
Yeah.
also think of Wayfinder, which is turned into, it's not an MMORPG, but it is an MMO, which is turned into a decent game. But I don't think many people play it because initially, when they opened their servers, you sat in a 6-hour queue, and usually within 20, 30 minutes you crashed out. So you'd play 20 minutes, this sit in a 4 or 5 hour queue. And if Ashes does that, I don't think that gets received very well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The one thing I didn't bring up when I was talking there is I'm going to do a tier list as well, but I think as far as important dates go, Alpha 2 is behind Beta 1, Alpha 2 is behind Beta 2, Alpha 2 is behind the release date. Like all those days are more important because more eyes are going to be on it at that point in time. And so when I look at it, all this isn't me saying like this isn't a big deal. Like Alpha 2 is obviously a big deal. The entire goal of Alpha 2 is for testing. And if the Alpha 2 initial product is so bad that you have zero retention, then you're going to have a huge problem. And that's the biggest issue that you're going to have. I don't think it's going to carry over to live. I don't think it's going to carry over when the game releases or even to the betas. People are going to be like, okay, I think a lot of people that are not tuned in, they're just like, okay, it's not ready yet. I think that's what the vision will be. All of us that are tuned in Alpha 2 and are excited about Alpha 2, they're like, man, I hope there's people to test next to me. Like, I hope there's going to be people on. Like, I hope it's going to be functioning enough to where I can get on there and play. And I think we all would rather have that than, potential server issues for a long time period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing.
Okay.
I'd say the other game real quick that I think of when it comes to long development cycles, because I'm not necessarily in favor of like a 24/7 testing phase for like multiple years, because I also think of Crowfall. Now, Crowfall also was just not a terribly good game. I mean, it could have been better just as a design, but it was 24/7 server access for years. And when they hit their beta milestone, nobody cared. When they hit their release, nobody cared because you could have already been playing that game for 2 years. 3 years. So I don't know, because I also I sit back. I say May. I don't think they make that target based off their history. And I really don't think we see a release till 27, maybe. I don't know. So the idea of having 2 years, the idea of having 2-3 years of just 24/7 server access, I don't know that I like that idea.
Holy crap. Oh man, we got a lot to discuss today. Phantom dropping the bomb. He said we're gonna miss the phase deadline. So my take has always been they're gonna hit their phase date. I don't think they'll officially push it back. I think they'll say, oh, phase 2 starts today, and your keys will now work today, but this feature is pushed back to phase 3 and so forth. I don't think so I think you're right, but I don't think they will officially do it. But technically, yeah, I can see it. Yeah, it's a technicality. Yeah.
To clarify, that's not insider information. That is just entirely based off their history.
And by the way, everything Phantom says, he's not breaking NDA today. He's just speaking.
We tried, guys. I'm telling you, we tried. Where we want him to break NDA, but he won't.
Not that you know.
Warrior says he's speaking my mind. Yeah, I think a lot of people are especially people that's well, let me not even say that. I think a lot of people are starting to get still hopeful for the project, but maybe some people is like, I'm not too they're not too they don't have too much confidence with deadlines / dates anymore, and that's fair. I think that's fair. I think that's more than warranted, right? Couple things here. Sonic had a fun tangent for us here in chat. Before we get to that, Hellstalker had said, as far as like how important the first impression is, he had said during alpha, not much an impact at all for launch, but if it's a bad press about the full game, then it'll take time to recover. So like if we have a bad launch,
Absolutely.
kind of like Baldur's Gate 3, it'll blow over time, just as long as, I think the Alpha 2 launch will have to go abysmal. Like people, like all your favorite streamers are coming through that portal we see here on screen, and they're getting PK'd left and right as no spawn protection. That they can't even do their quest because no, they just spawning in and getting PK'd too
nice
soon.
break an NDA here. This is crazy.
Because that would suck, right? If like you come through the portal. And before you even like get to the quest giver, you're getting killed by some level 6 spawn camp in the zone because of a foresight to add protection to this first initial room we see here. But surely we won't see that on October 25th, and I'm confident Intrepid will correct that issue. Personally,
I mean, how many people sees Asmon and tries to kill him? Like, I assume it's a lot.
Bro won't make it to this quest marker here on screen.
It'll happen.
Yeah, that first day is going to be chaos because of how corruption's set up and the disparity of the initial levels and people going nuts. And hopefully it evens out as they go on. But yeah, I mean, I think we all have our own targets for day one. I have a couple in my mind, and I can't announce them here because I'd be breaking. I would ruin the surprise. But yeah, it's gonna be chaos. It's the first couple days are gonna be chaos. I think it's gonna be just potentially laggy, potentially buggy. I'm just hoping to see flashes. That's what I want to see. I know they're working on the server stability and everything, but I want to see what we've been seeing on live streams. Like I want to see that through the moments of issues that we're gonna encounter.
Grim says, I think the first weekend will essentially be a weekend of hardware and network issues. Yeah, I'm not expecting a smooth network launch. I'm expecting to sit in queue for a while, or servers are scheduled for 7 a.m. I don't get online till 11. Whatever. I'm not gonna put too much pressure. We'll see. I'm hoping for a smooth launch.
I'm gonna take your name at that point.
Oh gosh. Anyways, so Sonic earlier said, what would you guys think if A2 follows PAX Day's progression, which is at like 350 CCU now? So PAX Day, that was the side project of mine. Like, I was seeing Ashes of Creation. That was my main chick, I'm like, oh snap, when we're gonna take it to the next level. I'll wait for you, I'll wait for you, babe, and we're almost there, we're about to we're about to make it official and everything. And then PAX Day was that one I had my eyes on. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll give her a try. I'll keep my eye on her. If the Ashes of Creation doesn't work out, I see you. And then that shit the bed. So it was like a housing. It's good housing, but like the combat was jank. Tree chopping, just gathering.
Tree chopping.
So they, like, to me, one of the most important things, if you like content, if you like progression, if you like all this, the one thing you got to do is have your game fun to play. And that starts with what? Combat, And it didn't have that. And they still went into early access without correcting the combat. They just like, we'll fix it later. And they're actually making some small improvements to it here soon, actually, PAX Day is. But, is it too late? Is it worth rushing to early access, getting that little bit of money as you develop your game? If it's looking at Sonic said 400 people. 400 people. No, that was you, Phantom, that said it. I'm sorry, like 400 people that was playing 24-hour peak or something.
Yep.
And like that's sad. That is really sad. And what if Ashes of Creation, maybe a little bit before phase 2, or let's say a month into phase 2, people have seen enough. We've seen enough of the Riverlands. We've done these quests 3 times, 3 different characters, 2 different resets. Still no quest on the western side of the Riverlands. We're just like running stagnant. And then you start to see that you start to notice you never have a queue when you attempt to log in. You start to notice that there's less testers around, and et cetera, et cetera. You notice viewership in the Twitch category is down. You notice this, you notice that. What is our fate if that becomes us? Kind of like the similar to the conversation we said earlier, where us, the core AOC community, we're going to be logging in more likely, right? We're going to be there. We understand this is going to be a long development cycle. We understand it's a long test process, everything like that. What if we end up as a PAX Day, and we're not going to be on Steam, so we don't see the official numbers, right? But you can kind of gauge. Maybe there's 3 servers initially, but it goes down to 1 server. Yeah, like Tengu says, server merges, and then we're all on Resna. Like, else, what is your outlook if we end up becoming PAX Day for a little bit, maybe till phase 3 or so? Let's say it like that.
So I will say this, and this is just realistic expectations. Every single game, like you can go and you can look at Steam charts for every single game's release. We are going to see a 40 to 50% drop no matter what within the first month. Like it's just, we're naturally going to drop. People are going to try it and they'll be like, okay, cool, and they're going to be done. And it doesn't matter if you're game of the year like Baldur's Gate that lost 40% somehow in the first, only 40%. Even Elden Ring lost 50%, and then like another 50% after that, like 2 months later. And obviously those are good games. And then you can look at bad games that came out like New World, where like it was just like 80% and then another 80%, and then and it kept dropping. And so I want to like have you guys understand, like when we get into November or the early part of December and we're right before that alleged phase 2 point, like if they're still on track for that, we are going to see a much smaller number naturally. Now, how much smaller? If it's PAX Day's number, that'll be a failure. And I think there's a lot of belief to believe that it won't get that bad. It can. I want to say this. It can if the servers don't work. If the servers aren't working and people can't get on to play, that's how bad it's going to be. And like if the game doesn't work, nobody's going to hop on. But I played both PAX alphas. There was nothing to do. Like there's nothing to do. Like there's like I chopped down so many trees, man. I built so many chests. Like it was that's all you do. Like you kill a couple boars with a stick with like the worst combat imaginable. There's no quest. There's like there was nothing. And then they came out with the second one and there was still nothing. And so when you look at what they're releasing, at least for the first one, if it works, there's a lot there to potentially retain people if the servers are working. And if they can get in, there's a lot of ifs here, but if they can get into phase 2 and they can release stuff at a steady state, I think you're going to keep people's interest for a lot longer to where it won't turn into a PAX. But yeah, if the servers don't work, it absolutely could.
Yeah,
for real. So there was a fun comment here. Here, let me pull it up. So Grim here said, heck, it wouldn't surprise me if we lose 50% of the player base after the first month because they wanted to just play a game, ignoring all the warnings about it not being a complete game. Yep. Indeed. There's going to be some reality checks. There's going to be some expectations readjusted. And I would imagine after maybe first 2 days of the first weekend, maybe players complete all the content that weekend. I don't know, but they see what they need to see and like, okay, this is cool, not bad. I expected more. I'll check back on this in a couple of months. I'll check back in on this. I'm not gonna know life this alpha test, you know. And I think that's what we're gonna see a lot of people get into the habit of. Like it'll be like you know, gosh, it's so hard not to say things that I know. But damn, how do you do that, Phantom? And you know, like 3 times more than me.
Very
careful. Years of practice.
Yeah, that's crazy. Anyways, and then here someone had responded. I think Flanker had a comment here. I think Flanker had agreed with him, and like, I just think. I think Intrepid has done a decent job, good job, especially as of late, like Phantom was talking about earlier. They've done a good job of trying to roll back or temper expectations, you know, and remind the audience. Steven prefaces like 30 times that it's an alpha. It's a work in progress, work in progress, work in progress, work in progress.
I can't wait to play the full game on the 25th. It's gonna be sick.
That's all. Full game's gonna be so awesome. Like, what is this a bug? What the hell?
I mean, but it's interesting, like what they think, because I think you can start to read a little bit on their expectations. I mean, meaning Intrepid. You know, when you go back to key sales, you know, they clearly had a decision: do we open up Alpha 2 key sales before or after we do October 25th? Right. You know, the risk of opening it beforehand is going to potentially piss people off. You know, the whole you said keys were going away, and so I rushed and paid this amount of money, and
Yep.
now you're selling them for cheaper, blah blah
Needed more
blah.
testers.
Well, that's what they say, but how can you? How I didn't buy that just because how do you?
Yeah.
The rationale of, oh well, now our servers can hold more people. It's like, how do you know that? You haven't had Alpha 2 yet.
Yeah.
So I think you can start to look a little bit into their actions and say, okay, they clearly went the route of potentially pissing people off. I
Mhm.
think because they expect that they would have fewer sales after October
Mm.
25th if they waited. And I
Real.
think the reason for that is exactly knowing what you have just said. There's just not content. There's just people are going to see it and say, oh well, is this 20 hours of gameplay, 50 hours of gameplay? How much is it? Is it really worth doing this right now? And
Mm.
the further you go, generally the cheaper things are going to cost. So I think you can kind of look a little bit into how they've done things and sort of their own expectations.
Sure.
Real.
So
Jess here in chat says they have said it's an alpha, fair enough. However, they marketed it with videos that look nothing like the actual game, which is deceptive. We can't speak on that because that would be like we can't speak on nothing with NDA knowledge, which that is appears to be. But yeah, if we were to get our hands on the game and it was nothing like what we presented, then yeah, that I could see how that would obviously be an issue, right? Like
That'd be a
Els was
huge
saying
issue.
earlier, yeah, like, hey, this is what I was expecting. We get that it's a test. We get that, everything's not going to be there. It's going to be a little janky. But at the bare minimal, we expect what we saw on these streams that motivated us to pay the $250, the $120 to test this game, right? So I think at minimum, if we get what we see on streams, then that's all fair game. And yeah, we'll just move forward and be patient from there. So yeah.
But
Um
the reference that I'm going to make is, do you guys know Doodle Bob from SpongeBob? So you have the
Yes.
yeah, like that is like the vision of what would be a bad launch. Is you're watching live streams and you're expecting SpongeBob, and then you hop in Alpha 2 and you get Doodle Bob, and you're just like, yeah, this is not good. Like this is not good. Hopefully they fix everything, but yeah, there's nothing to say here. Like, this isn't not good.
Yeah. I hope that we're in for something good, something that would surprise us. And I expect Intrepid to really ramp things up here soon. As we get closer.
The positive side, I think, is being a PvX game, you do have a lot of content that's just player driven. So
Yes.
I think that helps them here. That was probably a big reason to get caravans and things working before the 25th, just so that players can kind of do stuff on their own. So I also think that's why they've added lawless zones. Otherwise, I really do not buy the idea of, oh, well, this is us testing open seas. It's like, there's nothing other than the fact that you can kill without corruption. There's nothing like open seas. There's no boats. There's no water.
Mm-hmm.
I think the lawless zones are also in there just to give people stuff to do, just to kind of create your own content.
I think so too.
And that's why they put the high level stuff in those areas, is just to give people. Now, I will say that the flip side to that is PAX Day also had their own sort of the equivalent of lawless zones.
Yeah.
And nobody went there and did anything. So I don't know.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, I mean, I guess that could be right, because it's not like the data that they see. What they said and what I interpreted is like they're doing the lawless zone so people can go ahead and get used to, like, hey, there is going to be an area when people can kill you corruption free. But yeah, I think you hit that on the money. I didn't think about it till you said it that way. But yeah, it could be just like, hey, you're going to finish these quests in about 1 or 2 weekends. Here's your in-game activity. Here's something to keep lawless zones. I hope the island that's in the middle of the seas is a corrupted zone, or maybe they designate a certain biome for that. I could see that. I could see players wanting that. You're going to get used to having a corruption-free zone on land without doing naval combat. So yeah.
And
okay.
I do wonder if that's part of the reason too. If this isn't also just a test to see, can we have areas that are land-based that are free of corruption?
Sure.
So I do wonder about that also. Which
yeah.
would be interesting.
I hope, I would hope. Maybe it doesn't need to be a whole biome like on a continent, but I think that landmass that they've
Just that
shown in the
island.
middle of the sea, yeah, just a little island
Just give me that
that's there in the
island.
middle of the sea. Yeah, just we'll settle for the
We'll
island.
have some Lord of the Flies style stuff there going on that island. It'll be a good time.
Jess says,
I'll give it a go.
Jess says, I think another issue will be they will need to be transparent if this is a spot test or alpha 2. I am okay with needed wipes, but if the servers are wiped fresh every weekend, they will lose. Oh yeah, too many wipes I think could be an issue. So I remember you will notice that their wording changed a lot. They used to say, "Oh, we're not going to do wipes," and then slowly during the streams, you start hearing them say, like, we want to avoid wipes. But I think there's going to be, I think wipes are just going to have to happen when you introduce certain large systems or certain things. You got to reset the server, or it's just going to be harder for the team, I imagine. I expect wipes, but yeah, I would hope that we don't get a wipe during during phase 1, but it might happen. It would suck if you only get 3 days to play. You reach level 10 because leveling slow, level 13, and then you log in next weekend. You got to start over from that starting zone again. I can see how that could be a feels bad, man, to some people.
Yeah.
I like to pivot to another random topic. I know we didn't have this on the schedule. I just got random stuff popping in my head because of chat and whatnot. There's been a fun topic coming up as of late, and I'm really curious on Phantom's perspective on this. So a lot of people feel or have been pushing for this is just the rumors. This is just word going around town. Can't say from who, what, when, where, why. But a lot of gamers seem to think that they should keep the NDA in place for October 25th launch / phase 1. Wanting Intrepid to kind of go back on this promise of keeping NDA and saying it's not ready for the world to see. What is your thoughts on that?
Again, I think you just have to rip the Band-Aid off. I don't know that. I don't know. I guess I could see some potential. Gosh, I don't know how to answer this without.
Yeah, I apologize. I just realized that might be.
No, I think I can. I think I can. So I think there's pluses and minuses to both. I will say that I think this game has been thoroughly delayed because of the NDA, or because of the open development. I mean, I think if they had not promised for all of Alpha 2 to be open, they probably would have started this much sooner. And so, because I think you have to have you do have to have some level of polish if you're presenting an alpha to the world, because the world's going to judge it, regardless.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, I think you add in 150,000 people are going to break NDA anyways.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah.
All it takes is 10 people to post something that ends up everywhere. So I don't know. I don't think they will. But I could see potential benefit if you were just really unsure, primarily of what it is you're trying to do, which I think based off their phase 1 is largely stability testing. But I don't know. I don't know if that's a good. I think I answered that without breaking any NDA.
I think you did a good job.
That's good.
I think you did a good job.
Yeah, I think you just do it because again, I think people are gonna talk about it regardless. We already know there are leaks. Luckily, they're not huge leaks. They're not largely public leaks, but
Yeah.
People know. So
still somewhat contained.
Yeah, so you add in literally 100,000-200,000 people. I just don't see that persisting.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's a lot of it.
I look at this through a few different lenses, like what could go well, what could go poorly. First of all, I'm not a game developer, and I want to be clear that that's where I'm coming from, is somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about in this. So this is just my perspective on it. But I saw some of the people talking about the NDA stuff, and I don't think that they weighed the negatives of telling 150,000 people that this thing that they paid for would now be NDA for the first X amount of time. I understand the perspective that, maybe they feel like it's not ready. Well, the first time I heard that people were talking about this was a couple weeks ago. So there was like a month out of the Alpha 2 October 25th date. And it's like, I look at this as like, baking a cake is like the example I kept coming up with in my head. And it's, you have the cake in the oven, and right now we're watching the cake and we're like, man, this cake looks like shit. It's not ready yet. And and as non-developers, we're all looking at it and it's like, yeah, it could come out and it could still be in a poor situation, or it could actually just be fine. And we're overreacting to what's going to happen when they release. And so my perspective on it is I said this to you a couple months ago, nice, but I said that if they had to push it back to May, I'm with Phantom on this. I believe that the May is the actual official Alpha 2 release date. I believe that is that as well. I believe that if they just told us that they were pushing it back to May, I think that would be a way better choice than putting an NDA on Alpha 2. Like if they're encountering situations to where retention's going to be terrible, I think it's way better to delay it than it is to strap an NDA. Because like you said, you have all sorts of issues where you've been selling this as, no NDA, everybody goes into it, and then you're going to give it to 100,000+ people and expect them not to leak information. That's not going to go well. I don't think that's going to go well at all.
Yeah.
So just wait.
Chat, do you agree with that? I think I agree with that. I think I would rather, and I think from a business standpoint, I would rather in this scenario that we've got going on, I would rather a pushback to May than a NDA or even attempt an NDA. I think that'd be pointless. The leaks will end up on Reddit or something like that. Yeah, it's just pointless. That's too many people to NDA. It just is. Something will come out. So I'm with that. I'd be with that. I think the Ashes of Creation community would be prepared. Hey, Phantom, how long have you been waiting for Ashes of Creation?
2016.
Yeah, they don't mind waiting.
Just a couple presidents, no big deal. No big deal.
We were talking about this Sunday. There is a very good freaking chance that we will have covered this game for a decade before it is actually released.
That's oh my.
A very good chance.
Oh, stop. Oh boy. That's crazy. The pushback will be immense though. Yeah, and we gotta predict what these narratives are. Like I know I spoke on this before, but I see the headlines, chat. Like call it a prophecy. I literally have seen the thumbnails and the YouTube titles. If some of these content creators are disappointed with Alpha 2 and they get their hands on it, there's gonna be a guy in this corner with his hand palm in his face, like and then it's gonna say $250 for this or $500 for this. And then there's just gonna be another guy with a shock face, like, and then it's gonna open up showing just a compilation of bugs, and I think yes, a lot of that isn't warranted because it is an alpha test, right? But at the same time, at what point do we draw the line? Like, okay, no, it's a test. You can have bugs. You can be missing this. We can still be waiting on this. But there's a line. Like, why don't we have this? Why don't we have X, Y, Z? So,
sure.
I'm interested to see where that narrative goes. Let me pivot really quick and say, I want to get you guys' feedback. I want to get you guys' feedback on something. How hype are you for Alpha 2's launch on October 25th, 2024? I'm at a 10. I'll be honest, chat. Now, there's a difference, and we have a poll in our Voices of Air Discord. Feel free to join that. There's a poll right now where we're like keeping track of everyone's hype for Alpha 2. I'm at a 10. I'm at a 10, chat. I really am. Now hype doesn't equal expectations. Before you type your answer, remember, thank you, Viral. Hype does not equal expectations. Not how good you think it's gonna be and blah blah blah. What is your hype? Like, how much are you looking forward to it? Like, oh, it's finally here. What is that number? Oh my, Hellstalker 7. Terra says a 5. Okay.
I'm a 10. If I could be higher than a 10, I would be. I can't wait. But I also just expect it to not go well initially. And I'm okay with that.
Interesting.
I will go ahead, Phantom.
No, you go ahead.
So I will say this. I think that what I appreciate about what Intrepid has done, what I've seen over the last couple of years, and obviously not as many years as you've been following Phantom, but I love that they have blinders on for like content created. Like they look at negativity, they look at negative videos, they look at constructive criticism, but they don't like alpha 2 is a testing period, and they need to look at it as how can we make the game better from alpha 2. And so people going in and doing videos on, oh, like I paid $250 for this, it's like that's not what we care about. We came in here to test these specific things. This is our goal, this is what we're trying to do, this is what we advertise it as. If you didn't get the memo, you didn't get the memo, and that's you're inclined to do whatever you want to do. And I think that's how they have to approach things. I think you're going to see the negativity no matter what, because people have different perspectives. They have different perspectives on what their expectations are for Alpha 2, and if they expect something more polished and there's less, or if they expect less polish, there's more. They're going to have like a different viewpoint on what they're seeing. And you know, some of us have seen a little bit more, and so our expectations are different than people that haven't seen those things. And so I think it all makes sense. But yeah, I really appreciate that they're just like, yeah, we're here to test the game. Like our goal is to make a good product, and we don't care if you're gonna do the YouTube meta O face. Like we don't care.
So I will be honest, I'm a little surprised. So we said Hellstalker 7, Terra said 5, Sheko said 8 hype, but I know once launch actually happens, it'll be at 11. Saluna said 4. Gronkowski with the 10. Okay. Jess says, Shafi said 10 until I see that Q. That's real. Jess says, I'm hyped, but also nervous if after 8 years, we have 1/3 of a biome. It will be extremely disappointing. Right now, I'm a 6 out of 10. You know, that's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, but we know that's the case. We know that's what we're getting is like a piece of a biome, a slice of lawless zone. And I'll be honest, I'll be real. To me, that's disappointing. I expected when I was thinking about Alpha 2 launch back in January or so. This is not what I was expecting. This is not what I was expecting. I was expecting like 3 biomes, some jankiness, some systems missing. I did not expect just the Riverlands after all of this. I mean, yes, and I know there's gonna be someone that says, "Oh, the Riverlands is huge, though. The Riverlands is the size of New World." That's not the point here.
Thanks for watching my videos, nice.
Yes, but like, it's just, I get it. I get it. Does that mean what we get isn't going to be good? No. That's not what that means. But we were just expecting a little bit more, and I think that's fair for you to have that belief. Ludulu says, I'm around 8 hype because I'm trying to keep myself controlled and not get disappointed due to inevitable issues. Yes, subvert expectations. You will never be disappointed. Crystal says, just let the streamers stream. There's going to be haters. It's sold as an alpha, not a AAA game. Facts. And I think that's what's going to happen, right, Crystal? Is that that first weekend will happen. The videos will come out, and then they'll move on. We're just going to have to take it and go with it. Or hell, maybe it's so good it surprises everybody, and it gets like a little criticism, but like criticism that's fair for an alpha. Like, okay, it's an alpha, but you know they need to fix this. But I can see the potential of this game. That's not, I hope, the narrative is. You're going to be critical, have a critical video, but say, hey, it's just an alpha, but look at the potential. The combat already feels good. Once they add a couple of biomes, they said it's going to be this huge, amazing world, blah, blah, blah. And then I think that's how you keep the hype. And that's how you do a fair, critical review of the Alpha 2. Congo says 10. Muscle says 10. Okay, there's the hype. Okay. 100 out of 100. Okay, Eric. Okay. I think there's a good balance. I didn't see any ones. No doomers in chat. That's good. I'm good with 1 biome. Let the other zones be locked until beta. You think we can make it to beta with just the Riverlands, Nova? Don't you dare. Don't. Do I got a mod on YouTube? Get somebody get Nova. No, I'm playing. I don't know about just the Riverlands, but I get that. I think I've seen a lot of people, Nova, say they wouldn't mind if we don't even see the Eastern continent until launch or beta 2. Yeah. So I get that. I don't know about just the Riverlands for years, because I think we're all expecting a long Alpha 2. I don't know if just the Riverlands would suffice for that, you know? Yeah. I don't know about that. I'm tired of watching the Riverlands from the showcases.
That's true. I don't know if I'm a 10 out of 10. I'm excited to finally get to test with all of you all. I think that's the more fun part, is just seeing people in the game playing with you.
Yep.
Namely because I also plan to kill every one of you. But you know,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
yeah, that PvP voice. I hear you. Yeah, right. Like, yeah, you're as threatening as Diggs is.
Oh, that too far. Too far.
um, for me, it's also trying to not. I've started noticing the past couple of months like a burnout. But I kind of did the same thing with New World. I got in very early on New World testing, and so by the time it released, so I'm trying actually to not get too wrapped up in what's occurring now, so that I feel pretty fresh come the 25th.
Fair. Mm-hmm.
But I'm mainly just looking forward to everyone else kind of being in there and seeing how
I,
things go.
I
Lovely.
expected to do like my goal was to do more videos leading up to Alpha 2. But now with Alpha 2 around the corner, I'm like, why do I want to talk about hypotheticals when we'll be experiencing this stuff? Like,
Yes.
like why talk about caravans and nodes when literally like we are 17 days away from
close.
actually going in there and being like, hey, instead of this being theoretical, this is actual. And caravans don't work, or or they do and they're awesome. Like that, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just like, okay, I'll just recharge my batteries while we wait, and we'll hear a bunch of Steven interviews and make sure we don't ask the same question that Vladis did or you guys did, and look like idiots, and we'll get ready for Alpha 2.
I think a lot of what you said there is applicable to us having that interview with Steven this month, where it's like so many people are asking questions or wanting to us to ask questions that we're gonna find an answer out to a week after the interview,
Yeah.
So it's like it's a fine line to walk, and trying to keep that curiosity back is and knowing what questions are important or what you really want, what information or vibes do you really want from Steven, rather than like, hey, and like people wanting questions like, hey, in Lionhold, will there be somewhere I can buy my mount? Like, you're gonna find that out. You're gonna see what it's in Lionhold or what is over here and blah blah blah. So yeah. I had a fun comment here from Viral Gaming. He says, I mean, if they build all the systems, do they need more biomes in Alpha 2? Like Riverlands, but it has all the systems fleshed out. Maybe you expand on Riverlands, there's probably 3 more nodes or so. Does it need more? Like, how much of the map do we need if we get all the systems in place? Like, say we get those vassal nodes in place, you kind of want a decent amount of land so you can really see that vassal node network kind of really get set up and whatnot, people spread out. But that's a good question. How much of the map do we? Because gosh, just the Western continent that we start on, like that's a huge game. That's a really huge game, chat. So if we do Riverlands and even, I don't know how many more biomes is on that continent. Let's just say Riverlands plus 4 biomes, Riverlands plus 3 biomes. If you got those systems in place and they don't show us the Eastern continent to maybe beta 2 or till launch, is that enough?
I'm not expecting the Eastern continent to launch, to be honest. So Phantom
Here, Planendorf in chat says, I need the guides from y'all so that I can figure out how to play this game. We got you. I'll have guides out that weekend. Gamer, thank you for subscribing. Sacred, thank you for subscribing as well. And Rick.
Yeah, so I never played Crowfall, but I did watch a couple videos on Crowfall and what went wrong and everything, and a few other MMOs at the time. And what a lot of people talked about was some of the downfall of a few of those games was that when they got into the betas, everything was already there. And so by the time they got into experience the game, it was the same thing. There was nothing changed. There's nothing edited. There's nothing new to experience. And Steven seems to be like the kind of guy that wants to have those experiences for the players. And so I'm kind of the belief that we're really not just going to see the Eastern continent. Like we may see just the Western. And then when it opens up and we get everything, then, then we get the Eastern continent and then we get all the stuff over there.
I could see that. There has been times in the past where they've kind of wanted to been stingy with lore and stuff like that. I could see maybe they let us like take ships out on the open sea, but there's like a barrier there and you can't really get to that Eastern continent. The devs are obviously actively working on it, but we just can't go over there. But yeah. Thank you, Viral, for gifting the sub to Planendorf. Appreciate that.
Here's a question. This touches on this actually, because this is part of what we're going to talk about next Sunday with Lattice and Ludulu. Talking about the Eastern continent, what would you think about sort of minimal criteria to release? Like, would you be okay if the game actually released and part or all of that continent did not exist, and that was going to come to us later in a patch or in an expansion? What would you be okay with that if that meant we got to
Mm,
see the game released earlier? Because I
That's a good
look at a lot of
question.
these games. Pantheon's another one, and I know that might be a four-letter word some places, but Pantheon is a small team, and I have said for a long time, like, just release what you have, like,
yeah.
add zones on later. Like, you're a smaller group. If you got your systems in place, you can always add to a zone a quarter, um, instead of trying to shoot for these big ideas and get everything in at once. I'm
That would
curious.
help post-launch retention. So I love that you brought this up, and I love that you're asking this. I am not a forum dweller myself, but this was one of my first posts upon joining the Ashes of Creation forum, and I'm gonna post this in chat here in a second. But yeah, here it is. I found it. It's called one of the devs commented on this. I think it was Vacnar. But it's called basically the premise is literally what you just asked is how much hold on, I gotta get to page one for some reason. It starts me on the last page. Here, I'll get the title for you guys and then link it. There it is. Okay. So it's called Ashes of Creation content release. And before I finish talking about this, let me paste this in chat. I was actually going to do a video on this. Here we go. You guys should have that link there if you guys want to follow along. But it's called Ashes of Creation content release. And I posed the same question, and I'll read it as such. With so much promise for Ashes of Creation, such as I forgot we talked about this before, but such as the systems and the content, how would you feel about some of the promised features not being available at launch, but added in a future free base game update? This is assuming nothing major like naval content, obviously stuff that got to be there, an archetype, nodes, node specific systems. Um, and I go on from there saying, basically trying to figure out, because this game has a lot of systems, right? What would people be okay with waiting on? And that's a big question. There's some systems that work so in touch with another system that people wouldn't want to sacrifice their vision of Ashes of Creation's launch with it being missing. I like, maybe someone feels like the bounty hunter system, released that 4 months after launch. Someone feels like the stock exchange isn't like, needed. Someone feels like this and that ain't needed. Because this game, if you go through the wiki, there's a lot of stuff you're like, oh, that's a thing apparently. Combat pets, or what if would someone be really upset if AOC's like, we don't have combat pets, they'll come, in our first major expansion 3 months after launch, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I as far as the whole Eastern continent, I don't know, man. I think the world of Vera, when it's first presented as a launch, we need to see that world of Vera. Now, if you release those content, that continent, and some things are missing, someone said what if the Underrealm came later? Oh, that was you. Like that would that's tough, man. That's a tough question. I don't know. I don't think I would be okay with the continent missing, but if it's holding up development and launch that much, then maybe. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I'm getting open to it. Crap. Okay, give me Underrealm. No. Give me
Again, I
Underrealm.
don't have any inside knowledge. This is a theoretic like exercise, but just
Crap. I think I would be okay if you didn't give me the Eastern. No, actually, no. I'm gonna stand firm. No, I'll just wait. I'd rather just wait. I think I'd rather wait. Unless they was like, hey, if you want to wait for this next continent, it's gonna be another 3 years. I think I'd rather just wait.
Sure.
Yeah. What about you, Els?
I just want to play. So I think the map's big enough. If it was only one side of the continent, I'd be cool with it. I think where my perspective on it would change is if. See, this is tough because I don't think that I don't think the land. And once again, guys, I am not a developer. And if you're a developer watching this, you're probably going to think I'm an idiot, and that's fine. But my perspective on it is I don't know if the land is what's going to hold them back so much as the systems working together that they're trying to get to work together. And I think that's going to be the hang up more than new dungeons and new content. And I very well could be wrong. Like I said, I'm not a developer. So if we only got like one side of the continent and they released it later, I think I'd be fine with it. I think I would. and it'd be like, okay, well, instead of releasing in 2029, we get it now. Cool, like that. Okay, yeah, give me Ashes now so I can PvP. That sounds good to me. So
Yeah,
I guess that'd be my perspective.
that's fair. Breakfast time. Oh, and Planendorf had said, "No one, I would never." He'll never say out loud how horrible you are at understanding game development. He said he'll never say it out loud.
Okay, good.
They say that for their meetings at Intrepid.
Yeah,
Like,
oh my God.
this guy thought.
Listen to this guy just ramble on about something he doesn't know.
You see, you go look back at your VOD, and there's like 6 clips from Planendorf. It is just LOL.
Oh my God.
30 views. From
LOLs 1 through 20. Oh my God.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. Oh, that'd be hilarious. Oh, I had covered your window for a second. My bad. Okay. There was so Breakfast Time said, if you add a whole continent later, it may cause chaos in the existing node, mass exodus. That'd be interesting because you know what? And Phantom disagreed. He says, I'm not sure about that. I think it would be intriguing for the world. So I think that's true. I think both of those are true. But the more I think about it, the one of the things that attracted me to Ashes of Creation was that Nodes 1 and Nodes 2 video from Steven. And it's just so cool because you think about it, you spawn it, you come through the portal, you spawn in on this world, and it's just it's like a land rush. You like, what node is going to develop? What's this? And if you introduce a whole continent later, you'd have to do a world reset, right? Yes, give us Nodes 3. You have to do a world reset because what if the 6 metros are already on that side? Yeah, you can siege and the world is ever changing, but I think it takes away from that magic if you're missing the whole map. Now, if they release that continent and it's got like bare bones, like it's missing, it's not as much. Okay, I tell you what, here you go, chat. Listen to this. You know how we got the Alpha 2 map and all the quests look like it's on the eastern side of the Riverlands, like all the POIs and the content seems like it's over there. And then you go to the left side, it's kind of barren, but it's there. I think if we did something like that to where the nodes were over there, the content was over there, but there wasn't as many dungeons, I'd probably be okay with that. Just because I feel like that initial land, rush and all that is important.
Sure.
Yeah. So I would disagree with what with the idea that it would ruin things. To me, if you have 6 months in and you really at that point have established, guild ruling different nodes, you have your metropolises, you're I guess theoretically having complications and disagreements, but maybe people don't feel like they're in a point where they can leave or where they can stab you in the back, and then all of a sudden you add a whole new continent that is completely blank. To me, like, now all of a sudden you introduce this unknown of who's going to leave the guild, who's going to go start their own thing over here. Um, do you get new alliances? Do you get? I think that introduces a different type of intrigue that I think is only possible because of nodes.
Sure.
I think in some ways we have to stop thinking of Ashes as sort of your traditional MMORPG, and always keep in mind the sort of the differences with the nodes and player-driven change.
Ever changing.
As long as there was space and enough content and in a one continent world to do stuff for a quarter or two, I really think adding in, because eventually I am of the opinion expansions are eventually going to add in land anyways, so you're going to have to do that at some point. I think that actually just adds a whole new layer of complications and sort of craziness that I'm looking forward to.
True.
Sure.
That I can see how that could help player retention post launch. How you doing, Yurt? I can see how that could help player retention 3 months, 6 months after launch. You got this new landmass to explore, and it comes with an expansion. Because, like, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, as you guys can tell, I'm not fit. I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I'm trying to weigh it because I'm so indecisive on this. But I'm thinking about it now. Else, to kind of pick on New World real quick. I remember they reworked, I think it was called Cutlass Keys. It was some sort of zone. And when they did an expansion, they didn't add new land. They blocked off this area of the continent for 3 months while they worked on it. And then once Rise of the Angry Earth came, it was a whole new zone. Like, it was completely reworked and it had all new content. That was their DLC expansion.
Yep.
Now they're adding this free-for-all zone, which is a which if I'm correct, is the same thing. They Cutlass Keys is what they reworked now. It's like this free for all zone and whatever. They didn't add the landmass. They just reworked what they currently had, and now it's like, well, what if they only gave us half the map initially and then added what they want to add now? Would that have been a time saver? Could they have released earlier? Could they have it released better? I don't know. It's an interesting concept, and I wonder what's Intrepid's thoughts are. I remember somebody commented on that thread I linked, and it was like they've also been curious about it like that. Not to say that they're considering cutting back on content to launch quicker, but to say like I wonder what players' thoughts are on like not delivering literally everything promised. And I like to close this out by saying one thing, something I always say, if Ashes of Creation even gives us 70 to 80% of what they promised, we have a game that will still change the MMORPG genre and will be the best thing that, on the market. It'll be the best thing on the market if we even get a fraction of what we expect / promise. And that says a lot. It says a lot. So I could be open to it.
I think it's interesting to think about because I've never thought about this. It's almost like you're making a fresh start server on the original servers by opening up a landmass. Like you're literally just like, hey, you guys are tired of getting bullied over here. Feel free to go over to this landmass and make a new node if you want to. And so you're gonna have like land rush all over again, which is kind of a cool idea. Like you have your gear, you don't have to level on a new world. You just get to go out and like get started right away. It sounds kind of cool. The only question I would have is obviously and nice. I'm sure you're tired of me saying that stuff like this, but like having the population density by increasing the like you're gonna have everybody loaded onto one continent, and you're gonna have X amount of time where people are used to seeing so many people in the world. The minute you open it up, if you don't expand the population of the server, everybody's gonna spread out, and it's gonna feel the server's not dead, but it's going to feel less populated because everybody kind of spreads out. So I wonder, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just wonder like what that type of perception would be in that situation. It's just like me thinking out loud, like, okay, well,
I like it. Okay. So hold on, chat. Let's get emerging. Everybody put on everybody get in their imagination, close your eyes and just listen. We're 6 months after Ashes of Creation launch. It was a huge success. It broke New World's launch numbers. Everything is fine. Population is lower than launch, but as expected, not dramatically
People
fell
are playing.
off. Yeah, people are playing. It's just not like the ridiculous 900K or whatever. It's it's still a great population. It's looking like game of the year. It's the next MMO. It is established. We're 6 months after launch, folks. We're fun. We're having fun. Everything's fine. We're getting great updates, patch notes, combat feels good. Everybody's happy. And then Intrepid Studios launches their new expansion, and it's just like, hey, the Eastern continent has arrived. Launch day happens for this expansion, and we all spawn. We logged all of our characters out on the coast so that we can sail over there as soon as possible. We log in on expansion day. There's just this huge navy, this huge fleet of boats sailing towards this new land that no one's explored. They briefly showed it in the showcase, but we don't know what to expect. We don't know where the node zones end and begin. We don't know of the bosses. We don't know of the content locked behind which nodes and blah, blah, blah. And then everyone lands on this island. Some people land at the south, some people land at the north, and they go and they start leveling these nodes over here. A whole new vassal network, new guilds leveling up different areas, taking control of different things. And then it's like, all right, we're established, a week after this, we're established. And it's like, okay, I want a metropolis over here. Oh, they got a military node on the coast. What do we do? Like, let's go siege this metro way over here. And then, like, how does this affect the world? Now I'm excited about it. Damn you, Phantom. Now I want this to happen. Now I want this to happen.
Idea. It's a cool idea. The amount of politics from opening up an entire server with new resources would be very dramatic.
Yeah, I think there are definitely downsides to, like, say, feeling smaller populations, all that. But I don't know. I think the intrigue that it would include would be, because this is different. This isn't like World of Warcraft opening up a new landmass, right? they do that, you just go do the quest and you're done.
Mhm.
This is actually giving players new land to own and run and rule, set up their own hierarchies. It's just a different beast. But I'm also the weird guy that also wants seasonal servers where every 6 months the server just gets reset and you keep your player character level and items, but the nodes themselves all get returned back to start.
I
And
like that idea
so
too.
All right. Okay. So Tangaroo said something awesome here. He said, okay, so yeah, Tangaroo, like, I think Phantom eventually sold me on it as I got like a little immersed and pictured that expansion launch of the next continent. But Tangaroo just put the cherry on top. He says, it'd be cool for newer players to see a second node race on a server too. Imagine missing the sensation that is Ashes of Creation's MMO launch. You didn't hear about it in time. You never bought an Alpha 2 key. You didn't realize this was going to be good, or you just decided to leave your new MMO, and you missed that initial welcome to Vera, that initial land race, the time frame where you get to decide what becomes a metropolis. Now they open this new expansion 6 months later or whatever the time frame would be, and you get to kind of experience that. You get to see a node go from a camp all the way up to a city and blah blah blah. Like, and that's something that if you miss out on the first time, you're probably not getting it unless they do these like seasonal servers and stuff like that. You really only get that one time. I mean, I'm not saying they'll never like introduce new servers after launch or whatever, because maybe there'll be a fresh start. I don't know. But like, if you miss launch day, you missed that one in a lifetime experience that is Ashes of Creation's introduction, or your introduction to the world. So that's a way to really give that to players that came later. You know what? Now this has to be a thing.
no, I think seasonal server again. I think Ashes is most of the time when I bring up seasonal servers like this, people think I'm crazy. But I think Ashes is just again very uniquely situated in its systems and how it's done that it kind of makes sense to just reset nodes every 6 months and start all over. And
Hmm.
again, the intrigue, the stories that would come out of that would just be super interesting. Granted, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm sure most people would probably be pissed if they lost their metro, but
I'll,
um,
I'll be honest. I don't like the idea of seasonal servers. It's actually the reason I don't play a lot of ARPGs like Diablo. I'll probably be playing Path of Exile too, but I don't like the seasonal models. I hate investing all that time and then losing it.
Sure.
But you're right in that the concept works for Ashes. I could definitely see that. Something also to keep in mind though is that the way this game is designed, you can, instead of needing a fresh start, you can essentially just change the world. You can be the change you want to see. You can seize that metro and then see what else becomes the next metropolis, and you can do this, and the world is forever evolving with story arcs, node sieges. I'm gonna say that 3 more times because that's like the big catalyst of change, right? What was that amazing quote that Steven said during the AMA I participated in? He said, you build the world through PvE, you change it through PvP. Oh, did y'all feel that shiver come down your spine? Oh, but yeah. But so I think that. So I don't know. I I think that's a really cool idea we discussed here. I was skeptical, but you slowly converted me. I think I'll be all right not having that Eastern continent. I think so.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. People, I think we all generally think that the big log jam is system creation, right? The nodes and all these sorts of things. But
Sure.
I mean, I don't think we can underestimate the number of biomes they have, all of the
Mm,
POIs they have to create. Like, it's a lot of content.
it is.
So I don't know. I would personally be fine if they did not release with everything available
Yeah.
right away.
Sure.
I just wanted to pause really quick and give a huge shout out to obviously our guest Fantmx. Thank you for being here. But you, the voices of Vera, you guys are awesome. I don't think I think we had a couple of things written down here that we were going to tackle. We were kind of loose, just kind of go with it. But you guys are literally, chat, you're literally carrying this whole stream. Like the tangents, the conversation, you guys are awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone that remembered to follow, subscribe, all that good stuff, liking the stream, all the stuff, just all the good conversation. It's the reason this show is called The Voices of Vera, because you guys are You guys are awesome. Really appreciate you. I don't want to hold Phantom hostage because he promised us that he was gonna break NDA so much, and he's got a tight schedule. So we got her up in stream so he can finish breaking NDA. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't get Phantom in trouble. But I have one interesting comment from one of the voices of very creative Machine Nations. They said, I wondered, since the world doesn't wrap around, if they plan to add more continents later to enlarge the world. That is interesting. So if you guys didn't know, Creative Machine Nations is a flat earther. He believes Vera is flat. And with his flat earth theory, he believes that this would allow Intrepid to add more land masses later, like to the west of the Western continent, if you will. So that's actually a cool option. Like some games, like the Elder Scrolls Online or World of Warcraft. Well, World of Warcraft does have like an actual map, but you don't really go there, right? It's like you portal into over there or whatever. With Vera, it'd be yeah, you could really could yeah, you really could just do that. What you guys think about is there any game with a 3D map? No, that'd be impossible. Not impossible, but probably not necessary. A world that wraps around like that. That'd be crazy. I would assume so. Why else wouldn't they make it wrap around? It sounds like it'd be complicated from a developer standpoint. Well, maybe
I
it's not as
mean,
complicated as I'm thinking, actually.
NMS is. I mean, you can go around the Earth or around the world.
Star
Yeah, Star
Citizen.
Citizen too.
True. You feel like they could do a wraparound if they wanted to, since they have server meshing? Anything's possible with server meshing. Server meshing will change anything. I mean, any and everything.
Well,
And I do think yeah, I think it does exist to add new continents, but as I just put in chat, I would almost be more interested in future expansions, seeing new planes, and then possibly going to Sanctus rather than new continents.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, I'd rather go to Sanctus or go to one of the freaking moons. Something like that. That'd be pretty sick. But yeah. Well, that's gonna be it for this episode. Before we close out, obviously, thank you again, Voices of Vera. Want to give a huge shout out to Fantmx. If you guys are not already following, follow Theory Forge on Twitch. If you guys are aware of our show, I'm sure you guys are aware of Theory Forge. Fantmx, Diggs, Neurotoxin, really good show every Sunday. Thank you so much for being here. And before we go out, I also want to close with a reminder that this Saturday, Steven has started his press run. So this Saturday, you guys, Vladis, who's been on our show a couple of times, he will be interviewing Steven Sharif for the 100th episode of the 1v1. So check that out. We're gonna have and all you guys in chat that didn't say 10 like me, if you were at a 7, if you were hovering around a 5, I think after this weekend you're gonna shoot up to a 10 after listening to Steven talk. So you got Vladis on Saturday, and then Sunday you have the discussion round with Yokai and Envious. That will be Sunday on the discussion round on that channel, and then ours will be sometime after that. So that'll be a video uploaded to my channel on YouTube. And then I think after that, or sometime around there, you'll also be on the lookout for Theory Forge's conversation with Steven as well. Sawman, you're so late. Sawman will be our guest for episode 69. He called it.
4 episodes. 4 episodes, Simon. We're getting there.
You don't think being at a 10 is healthy? That's why I said expectations and hype is different. Like, I think it's okay to be hyped for this game. We've been waiting for this game for so long. I don't know how anyone can't be hyped. Now, it's okay to subvert expectations and like, it's gonna be buggy. I'm gonna be a little disappointed. But how could you not? I mean, I can't. Well, let me speak for myself. I can't consume this much AOC content, waiting this many months and years, and watching all these showcases, and not be hyped. I am. But yeah, now as far as tempering expectations, yeah, that's fair. That's fair for sure. Stepping into No Wars is amazing. 17 days, yes, 17 days. Is there anybody for us to raid in the AOC category?
Let me look. We're not seeing anybody.
think Pockets is.
Pocket. We can rate
Yep,
Pocket.
Pockets is.
There you go. All right. Once again, thank you so much for being here. We could not do this without you, the voices of Vera. Hope you guys have a good evening. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Thank you guys so much. And we will be out. Peace.